Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Habibie Center's first Talking ASEAN seminar of this year. My name is Mabda Runisa Fajra Siddiq, and I will be moderating today's discussion. This seminar will discuss technology-facilitated gender-based violence, or TfGBV, in the ASEAN region and pathways towards gender-responsive digital cooperation in the post-2025 era. And the seminar is held as a collaboration between the Canada Mission to ASEAN and the Habibie Center. And on the behalf of the Habibie Center, we would like to welcome the Ambassador of Canada to ASEAN, Her Excellency Vicky Singmin, who we are very privileged to have here. We thank the Canada Mission to ASEAN for your support for this event, which I believe will be very constructive to ongoing discussions on digital cooperation in ASEAN. And I believe that this event represents our shared commitment to promote more gender-responsive cooperation in ASEAN. And the mission support represents its long-standing commitment to promote gender-responsive policies and cooperation in the region, particularly in supporting the women, peace, and security agenda. And with that, I would like to invite Her Excellency Ambassador Singmin to deliver an opening remark. Ambassador, please. The stage is yours. I believe will be very constructive ongoing discussions on digital cooperation in ASEAN. And I believe that this event
Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, and those of you who I think are joining online, a very good afternoon to all of you. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you to join the Canada-funded session on technology-facilitated gender-based violence in the ASEAN region and pathways toward gender-responsive digital cooperation in the post-2025 era. Of course, big thanks to the Habibie Center today for bringing us all together for such an important workshop and for this dialogue. It's always a pleasure for me to come here. I find that these conversations are very enriching. They help inform Canada, the discussions and the decisions that we make, but it's really important for us to hear from you. So we have a number of colleagues from Canada's mission to ASEAN joining as well. As many of you will know, Canada is very much a strong supporter of gender equality. This is reflected in Canada's feminist international assistance policy and, of course, in our feminist foreign policy as well. We know that sustainable peace and security, international development, and inclusive economic progress cannot be achieved without the full, equal, and meaningful participation of women and girls in all their diversity. We also know that technology is evolving at a very rapid pace, bringing with it opportunities, but also new cyber-related threats, such as misinformation and disinformation, the use of artificial intelligence to create deepfakes, cyberstalking, and harassment. Evidence shows that women and girls are disproportionately targeted by online forms of gender-based violence. In the ASEAN region, 88% of women aged 18 to 74 have experienced online violence, including defamation, cyber harassment, hate speech, and more. And this, of course, is not just limited to the ASEAN region. In Canada, technology-facilitated gender-based violence, also known as cyber violence, is a significant issue. According to the Canadian Women's Foundation, 1 in 5 women report experiencing online harassment. And certain groups are more vulnerable to technology-facilitated gender-based violence. For example, 33% of women aged 15 to 24 report experiencing unwanted behavior online. We also know that the impacts of this type of violence can be severe and long-lasting. It can include physical, stress-related illnesses, psychological and emotional harm such as shame and fear, and financial costs related to legal support and missed wages. A risk to the safety of women and girls anywhere is a risk to them everywhere. And when we talk about technology-facilitated gender-based violence, we know that physical borders, language, these are no longer limiting factors. And that's why Canada is proud to take action and support initiatives to address technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Every year, Canada marks the International 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign, both at home and abroad. We make sure to involve everyone in these initiatives, especially men and boys, in working to change social norms and behaviors that contribute to gender-based violence. we raise awareness about gender-based violence. Canadians are encouraged to wear orange shirts or purple ribbons between November 25th and December 10th, which of course is Human Rights Day, and to join the campaign to support activism against sexual and gender-based violence. We also support global initiatives to end gender-based violence, organizing community events with survivors, as well as educational campaigns. Canada has also adopted its third National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. We did this in 2024. And this plan highlights a threat of technology-facilitated gender-based violence on national security and women's and girls' rights. Our National Action Plan specifically acknowledges that gender-based attacks and disinformation threaten basic rights, it impacts women and girls' participation in society, and results in real-world harms. And actually next week, I was talking with our special guest just a few minutes ago. I'll be in Hanoi in Vietnam for the ASEAN Future Forum, and there I'll actually get to speak with some other colleagues about the intersection between women, peace and security and digital inclusion, including the importance of gender-sensitive approaches to cybersecurity governance. Canada also supports the Advancing Equal Societies through Women's Political Leadership and Participation in ASEAN project. This is something that we've implemented in partnership with the Westminster Foundation for Democracy and is funded by a $2.4 million contribution through Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy. This project advances gender equality by creating an environment where politically active women can exercise leadership in politics safely in the ASEAN region, with a particular focus on identifying and mitigating violence against women in digital spaces. We also very much welcome the engagement of the Canadian private sector on this important issue. As announced in November of 2024, the Government of Canada is providing $3.9 million in funding in partnership with BlackBerry and the Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst to support the delivery of cybersecurity training in Malaysia and the ASEAN region, including to women. I understand that Jacqueline Sim from the BlackBerry Cybersecurity Center of Excellence is joining us virtually today. I was just in KL last month and had a chance to visit BlackBerry Center there, so very much looking forward to Jacqueline's session about women in cyber broadly. Through Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy and Canada's strategic partnership with ASEAN, we will continue to work together to mitigate and address unique challenges to peace and security, including technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And so it really is a pleasure for me to be with you, all of you here today, to hear from the experts and to understand the opportunities in ASEAN to make online spaces safer for all those that experience gender-based violence, particularly women and girls. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your insightful remark. Before we proceed, allow me to invite Ambassador Singmin, Bu Julia Novrita is the Director of Program and Development of the Habibie Center, Bu Yuyun Wahyuningrum and Baninden Sakararum as today's speakers, as well as our friends from the Canada Mission to ASEAN and the Habibie Center's ASEAN Studies program for a quick photo session up front. So please. So again, thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time to come here despite the weather, and thank you very much, Ambassador Singwin, for your insightful remark. And really wonderful to hear about all of the tremendous effort that the Canadian mission to ASEAN, as well as Canada in general, have contributed to this agenda. And as mentioned before, the topic of today's seminar is TfGBV, or Technology Facilitated Gender-Based Violence in the ASEAN region, and we're hopefully, I think by the end of this seminar, we're able to chart out pathways towards gender-responsive digital cooperation in the post-2025 era. Um, and of course, the FGBV can be defined as acts committed through the utilization of digital technologies, which inflict physical, sexual, psychological, social, political, or economic harms, among others, to particularly women and girls because of their gender. And so this encompasses a much more broader phenomenon than GBVO. And TFGBV remains prevalent in this region that we're in and manifest in various forms. In fact, TFGBV is believed to be severely underreported. Uh, as of 2021, if I'm not mistaken, up to 88% of the women surveyed by the Economist Intelligence Unit in Asia Pacific report having experienced the FGBV. And bear in mind that the report of the survey came out 4 years ago. So aside from underreported, the FGBV is also hopefully by the end of the seminar, we're able to highlight even more. And the complexity of addressing the FGBV within the ASEAN context is further exacerbated by various added challenges. To name a few, we can think of shrinking civic space, regulatory gaps, accountability and responsibility on the part of big tech and platforms. In fact, we were talking about this just now, as well as how technologies are advancing at a more rapid pace than the regulations or policies in place can. And we view discussing the FGBV as timely, given the gravity of the issue, as well as in order to reconsider what steps do we need to take as ASEAN is set to release its community vision for the years, hopefully by the end of this year, and renew its vision for digital cooperation as well as cybersecurity cooperation strategy following the previous iteration, which came out in 2020 and is in place until 2025. So to discuss that issue, we have three distinguished speakers who are joining us today. First, we have Mbak Nenden Sekararum. Mbak Nenden Sekararum is the Executive Director of the Southeast Asia Freedom of Expression Network, or SafeNet, and is co-founder and manager of Indonesian Data Journalism Network. Thank you, Mbak Nenden, for joining us today. And second, we also have Bu Yuyun Wahyuningrum. Bu Yuyun Wahyuningrum is the Executive Director of the ASEAN Parliamentarians for Human Rights, or APHR, and is also an affiliated researcher at the Asian Research Center for Migration in the Institute of Asian Studies at Chulalongkorn University. Welcome, Bu Yuyun. And last but not least, we also have Jacqueline Sim, who is joining us online. Jacqueline is the Senior Manager at the Cybersecurity Technical Training, BlackBerry Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, and is also currently the President of the ISC2 Malaysia chapter for 2024 to 2025. And ISC2 is the world's leading member association for cybersecurity professionals. Welcome, Jacqueline, and thank you for joining us today. And before we start, let me give you a run through on how the agenda is going to first. First, we're going to have 10 to 15 minutes of presentation from each of the speaker. So bear in mind, due to time constraint, I will give a reminder at the minutes mark so that you have 2 minutes to conclude. And following that, we will have a discussion through a question and answer session with the audience. So please, if you have any burning questions, criticism, comments, anything that you wish to raise or you wish to discuss here, feel free to ask at the very last sessions. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mbak Nenden Sekararum, who, as mentioned before, is currently working as the Executive Director of SafeNet. And SafeNet has been actively advocating for this issue in Korea, because if I'm not mistaken, you have the Awas KGBO initiative. Yeah, and it's one of the initiative that has positively contributed to assisting victims of OGBV in Indonesia. So I'm excited to hear more about the initiative and what lessons learned can we take and expand at the ASEAN context. And then we'll discuss what do we know of the TfGBV and how it has evolved in Southeast Asia, and how can various stakeholders, especially digital platforms and tech companies, can and should pursue gender responsive approaches as a part of their strategy. So without further ado, I would like to let's welcome Banadam with a round of applause.
I'll set my timers here. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to discuss with everyone here about the technology facilitated gender-based violence. So I get some slides actually just to guide me on how we talk about this. Okay, so before start about the technology facilitated gender-based violence is kind very long term, but yeah, we call it TfGBV. Maybe I will introduce about SafeNet first. Okay, for anyone who never heard about SafeNet, oh sorry. Okay, SafeNet is actually an civil society organization based in Denpasar, Bali. So we are start our initiative since 2013. Firstly, we only advocating for criminalization or freedom of expression issue, but then since 2018, we working on digital rights. So we are doing policy advocacy, victim support, capacity building, and solidarity related to access to the internet, freedom of expression, rights to feel safe on the digital space, and now we also expand our issue on the equality and inclusivity of digital space. Okay, so why we should talking about the technology facilitated gender-based violence, and then why actually it's happening. So sometimes when we discuss with civil society organization colleague or like students and everyone's actually sometimes they think that the technology is a neutral space, you know, like everyone can be there, everyone can express themselves there, but in reality we should know that there is an influence of existing social structures. So this is why we cannot talk about the technology in the vacuum space, yeah, because like there's a lot of like influencing, there's a lot of influence comes from existing social structures. For example, actually technology is developed with gender bias. So as maybe we know that actually I mean like we know that one of the first coders is actually women, and then a lot of like women is also contribute in the technology development, but then sometimes, or not sometimes actually, but the women's contribution on technology development uh, is a very lack or a little recognition. So this is why the lack now for now there's a lack of female representation uh, in STEM fields, yeah, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields, and it leads to how the technology design is mostly by men, without any, or maybe just a little bit women perspective. So when we see on how technology develop now, it's mostly really very masculine. So for example, actually we know that the size of the phone actually is really gender bias. Is really big. It's not even like my my palm is cannot really uh you know like hold the phone because it's actually there's a gender bias on this kind of like technology, how the technology develop. That's why when we found the gender inequality is a really obvious on how the technology develop, and it leads to the gender inequality in the technology, and it also a root of the gender-based violence. So when I when I talk about the technology facilitated gender-based violence, is always comes from the how it's actually the technology is actually developed. and it's create a really big gender gap, digital gender gap. So that's, yeah, that's the term. So yeah, the technology facilitated gender-based violence. Actually, yeah, you can read any acts of violence or threat that use the technology. Yeah, and mostly cause harm for women, girls, and LGBTI people. And it's actually committed or assisted by the use of the information and communication technology. Yeah, so the abuse of technology itself. Why it's called technology facilitated gender-based violence. So it's disproportionately impacts women and girls and cause physical, psychological, and economic, and so on. Actually, the ambassador already mentioned about this. Okay, so yeah, this the thing I mentioned earlier about the digital gender gap. How actually the women now is, I mean, like we are not playing in the same field, yeah, with the men, we can say like that, because women is, it's usually have the unequal access to digital technology, because the technology is developed by men, is without women perspective. Sometimes we feel unsafe when we using the technology itself, the internet itself. That's why there's a really a small uh, contribution now, yeah, from women on how the technology is also developed. So, for example, in some areas in Indonesia, women is some women cannot access the technology because people said or people think that technology is just for men. That's why a lot of like women not really have the literacy of the technology or the digital itself, and it actually increase the vulnerability of them about the technology or the risk, yeah, of the technology itself. So that's why now technology facilitated gender-based violence is always uh, experienced by women. So when we observe about what happened in the Southeast Asia, we can see there's still a lot of like gender gap. It's as January 2024, actually Indonesia has the big gender gap here, yeah. Other than the other countries in Southeast Asia, so we can say like Singapore, there's almost no gap, yeah, between men and women on the technology access. And then yeah, actually Indonesia is far behind the Vietnam, so yeah, it's kind of shame. But yeah, there's a lot of like challenges why these digital gender gaps actually happen. For example, in Indonesia, the lack of infrastructure in the rural area is one of the reason why there's a digital gaps here. So that's something that we should also see. So when we're talking about the TfGBV, it's not always the issue related to the sexual abuse, because sometimes we think that TfGBV is always, for example, online harassment or even non-consensual sharing of intimate image or doxing or cyber attack, kind of like that. But we sometimes miss that the gender gap is also a form of the technology facilitated gender-based violence. So it's still happening in Indonesia and in the Southeast Asia as well. Yeah, because the gender inequality and the unequal access to the digital world, the create it's create condition that enable violence against women. So it's kind of like the cycle of the evil, right? So because the space is not safe, so so the women not really can optimize themselves on the internet. But then because they, don't have any have a good literacy on the digital, and then they don't have any capacity to mitigate or even to prevent, yeah, themselves from the violence in the digital space. So when we observe what's it's actually the key challenge of the TFGBV in the Southeast Asia is mostly of from these three aspects: the digital literacy, or actually SafeNet is prefer to say is like digital rights literacy, not only digital literacy. So digital rights literacy, and then access to the technology and the internet, and the online safety itself. So it's always the challenge why the TfGBV is increasing. And then yeah, from the 2024 report, so we know that there's a lot of like emerging technologies now, and then it's also increased the vulnerability of women's and children's. So for example, the AI, yeah, the AI, and then manosphere. This is a new term that I learned last night actually. Manosphere is actually is the masculine, a masculine space. Yeah, how mostly of the technology is like mostly involve men without women, and then it's exclude women on the discussion of the technology itself. So that's why this challenge is emerged now. And I think when if we cannot mitigate this situation, these challenges will expand, yeah, in the next few years. And then okay, so this one, yeah, the gender bias and TfGBV. The gender bias on the technology development and TfGBV has a really strong correlation. As I mentioned earlier, that the male-dominated tech space overlook the unique risks faced by women and LGBTIQ community. So they cannot understand that actually we cannot hold the big phone, for example, right? Or maybe sometimes women cannot uh, or even or even in the technology develop, for example, if we know that the assistant, technology assistant like Siri or the Google assistant, Alexa, mostly with female voice. So it's it's like uh show that women is actually perceived as assistant, you know. And then you should really obey a lot of like our instruction, kind of like that. So that's also happening in the technology facility. So what's the impact? I think most of us know that that's not only about the digital impacts, but on how it's also affecting the psychological, social, economic, physical, and also the political. So we have the research about kami jadi target, or we are the target is the experience of women human rights defenders when they face the online gender-based violence. So uh, everyone can read more in this research. So the other problem is actually the lack of protection. So we know that the social media and digital platform are very slow to address the gender-based violence. So SafeNet actually one of the trusted partner for Meta, Facebook, yeah, Meta and Google, and then we always reporting. Okay, sorry. We always reporting the cases of the gender-based violence, and sometimes their response to the cases is really, really slow. That's why we can find how the platform is don't have any like gender perspective when they are address these issues. And then the security tools that are not inclusive, as I mentioned earlier, mostly the security tools developed by men and it's not really suitable for women. And then this one, lack of legal recognition of digital gender-based violence. So in Indonesia, for example, there's no specific regulation that recognize this digital-based violence. We know that we have TPKS, but it's mostly for the sexual offense, yeah, not the gender-based violence, especially for the technology facilitated one. And then, yeah, mostly the legal system still focus on criminalization without gender and human rights perspective. So this is some recommendation actually on how we should have these three part when we develop some regulation related to the gender based violence online, on how we should have the human right based approach to cybersecurity, and then gender responsive cybersecurity policies and collaboration across sectors. It's quite diplomatic answers or recommendation, but this is something that actually we quite lack when we talk about this. For example, the civil society organization in Southeast Asia, we we really have a limited access to discuss with digital platform when we talking about on how the best practice when the platform or tech platform should address the cases, for example. And then for the company, we know that the transparency and algorithm is really really important, but they don't have any transparency mechanism to publish their algorithm and how it affect the user itself. And then the last, for the civil society itself, we should push the digital right literacy campaign, not only the digital literacy, because we always believe that it's very important for the user knows that they have the rights on the digital space. For now, when we observe the digital literacy curriculum, mostly it's about don'ts and don'ts and do's, what to do in the digital space, but not really about what kind of right that you have on the digital space. So when everyone knows that they have rights on the digital space, they can it will empower them, and then it can make them reclaim their rights on the digital space, and then we can working together to build the safer and the fair digital space. Yeah, maybe that's why. Okay, maybe that's all from me. It's already 50 minutes, and then maybe we can discuss more later about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Nindin, for your presentations. Really interesting to know how um, just how TfGBV we can think of as something that stems from digital gender gap, which I think something that needs to be highlighted even more in a lot of the ASEAN documents where I personally observe where when we think of digital divide, we merely think of the access per se, but not about whether access to digital technologies is differentiated across genders. So I think that is one important thing that I think we can note and probe further in the discussion sessions. So for the second session, we have Bu Yuyun Hyuningrum. Bu Yuyun is, of course, as I mentioned before, is the executive director of the APHR, which is a regional network of current and former parliamentarians who use their unique positions to advance human rights and democracy in Southeast Asia. So I believe by having this discussion today, I think we can promote more discussions on this issue, both among parliamentarians as well as within ASEAN themselves as a collective. And Bu Yun will discuss about TfGBV and how it affects women in politics, I believe, and what measures have ASEAN and the member states take in addressing TfGBV. So, Bu Yun, again, 10 to 15 minutes, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much. It has been a long time. I haven't been in Habibie Center and speak in this room. The topic given to me is to talk about the measures of ASEAN on TfGBV. It's a new term. I continue to train myself of using the acronym. But I decided to talk about how it impacts the politicians. I think this uh, happened to be very good flow from what Nandan has been explaining on theory, on basis, on framework, on understanding TfGBV. Next, mentioned earlier, from ASEAN Parliamentarian for Human Rights. Um, it is an NGO, consists of a network-based NGO. The members coming from the running, the ex and sitting MPs from 8 countries in Southeast Asia, who use the role as parliamentarian, democratic elected parliamentarian to speak in the interest of human rights and democracy in the region. So this is the purposes of the presentation, but allow me to go a little bit out from the requested objective, but I will go into the purpose of the presentation as assigned by the organizer. All right. So this is basically what I'm going to say in this meeting. that the TfGBV has been evoluting. uh, it started from something, and then widespread and growing, become a growing problem. It is online abuse, disinformation campaign, and what has been mentioned by previous speaker just now. And it's not so. My presentation will be looking at female parliamentarians or politicians, but it also happened or experienced by human rights defenders, female human rights defenders, journalists, and many more. Even the commoners. And we also take a note that authoritarian and conservative forces use social media platform to spread the misogynistic narrative, fake news, and threat. You can see it in the situation in the Philippines, the previous election, for instance. More and more now, our members, parliamentarian, uh, situate this kind of abuse as the transnational repression, transnational repression. So this is the term that had been used by our members, parliamentarian, on how more governments in the region work together to repress. So, for instance, we had a case of Cambodian migrant worker picked up in the employer house in Kuala Lumpur and sent to Phnom Penh, and without trying, she was jailed. What happened? Because she commented on the policies of the prime minister through Facebook. So it's there has been a digital surveillance against individual, regardless their position, mainly men, mainly women, and regardless their geographical location, they will be arrested. And during the APHR Members Forum in 2024, this TFGBV discouraged women in participating in politics, weakening gender representation and democratic processes itself. So there has been there's a contradiction, and we need to find ways how to solve this problem, as it is problem of not only Southeast Asia but also the world. We encourage women to take part in public spaces, but at the same time, the space is not secured for women. So that's what happened, and that's what our female member from Thailand had been calling us to do something as parliamentarians and as an organization to address this uh, contradiction or gaps that we face now. And at the same time, there has been a different definition on the FGBV among one country to another in the region, and lack of regional framework on to address this problem. As Magda just mentioned, number of digital document on framework in ASEAN related to digital address more on access. It is very important, but it doesn't say anything that technology can also do harm to women. And I just because I have to speak in this session, I ran to number of the documents in ASEAN, not everything, but I noticed that document from the social cultural, like addressing women, like women, peace and security. There's a declaration on empowering women in digital age. Talk about access and put women as marginalized. Therefore, they need to be given access more than men, capacity building, and so on and so forth. When I look at the document that is not necessarily women, such as like the declaration on cybersecurity and so on and so forth, they even do not mention women at all. So, uh, like the document on women, peace and security, because when I was ICA representative of Indonesia, when the development of this work plan, I continue to asking for the inclusion of digital in the work plan. But then when I check, it was again about access of women, not how technology can do harm to women. The only document that I think mentioned about the abuse of technology is the ASEAN Leaders Declaration on Countering Trafficking in Person and the Abuse of Technology, 2023. But it doesn't say anything about women. So again, there is something missing there in number of framework of ASEAN. So it doesn't mean that the frameworks are not there. They are there, but they are missing link that may contribute to the situation, the exacerbated situation that we are facing now. So these are some of the cases that in our organization we collect and we pay attention to it. In the Philippines, our member Leila de Lima, former senator, I think now she is running to become a senator. Vice President Leni Robredo. Leni was the deputy uh, president of Duterte, and Risa Hontiveros. So these are the parliamentarians, politicians becoming the target of doxing and so many digital-based harassment. I don't have to read because it's very detailed. And then in Thailand, Chontika Jangro, she is from Move Forward Party. Move Forward Party is now dissolved, now become People's Party. She has around 74 cases. So when we invited her to come to the to Bali for members forum, she has to take permission from the court that she leave. She wanted to leave Bangkok. There is a certain date that she has to be back in Bangkok, and she was accused of so many things. So she also accused of having an affair with the foreign diplomats. So when she walked on the street in Bangkok, someone just hit her because the rumor, and she was named with so many names, prostitute and so on and so forth. She is parliamentarian. She is honorable. She has a label. She has a title of being honorable. That's how we call our parliamentarian, no? Honorable this, honorable that, excellency this, excellency that. While she was on the street, she got this kind of physical harassment from commoner because of this issue. And Panika Wanik is also from before. So if you are not familiar with the politics in Thailand, it was Future Forward Party dissolved, become Move Forward Party, get dissolved, and then People Party. I don't know when it is going to be dissolved, but anyway, so but these are very strong women, very committed, very determined, and Panika cannot participate in politics for the whole of her life. Um, and then not only the politician, but those who support the move forward political parties, the supporters got also technology facilitated gender-based violence. In Malaysia, we have so many names as victims. Hana, parliamentarian and then Deputy Minister of Women. Nurul Iza, the daughter of current Prime Minister. Sarlina Abdul Rasid also got so many TfGBV to make it short. If you also subscribe or follow Charlina in her Instagram, the comments are so discouraging. I mean, how people can say that to Charlina? She contributed a lot. Being Muslim, she did not wear hijab, and she has been target of so many things. Yeah, I cannot mention it because it is so mean. Myanmar Cambodia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia are not different from the situation that I just mentioned from other countries. So, so I didn't mention Singapore. It doesn't mean that there is no problem in Singapore. We just make it quickly, so I don't go into this too much. But it is common. It is happening in the region in all countries regarding the TFGBV. If widespread and becoming harsher and harsher every day. So, what is the impact? So, this is what many female parliamentarians shared during our members forum. Difference from public office. Many women consider running for and continuing in the office due to persistent of digital abuse, psychological and emotional toll, weakening the democratic representation. Less and less women want to participate in the politics, erosion of public trust, uh, and also that is sorry, that's double copy paste. And how ASEAN and member states have responded. There are legal measures. Some countries such as Philippines, Thailand have cybercrime laws, but they are often inadequate in addressing gender-specific online violence. That's just we mentioned earlier. Philippines has Safe Space Act 2019, but still it was considered as not enough. Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam also have some legal measures at place. Digital literacy awareness campaign had been done by civil society, or what Nandan mentioned, digital rights literacy, which is very, very important. So many organizations did a lot of raising awareness. There has been also call on regulating, and then some groups said we have to be very careful on regulating because you don't want to danger the freedom of expression and opinion. So one way to do it is to raise awareness, digital literacy, to empower the users how to be wise in using the digital technology or technology. But maybe we haven't done enough. I don't know, because digital technology becoming very, very fast in terms of development. How about ASEAN? ASEAN has ASEAN Regional Plan of Action on the elimination of violence against women. Make a reference to digital form and gender-based violence, but lack specific of enforcement mechanism. ASEAN Digital Master Plan also lack of specificity addressing TFGBV. ASEAN Leaders Declaration on Advancement of Women in Digital Age 2020 emphasized the importance of women in participating in all spaces, but does not uh, explicitly address the FGBV. So from these three documents, for instance, still technology seen as positive, and we need to engage and more access for women, but not necessarily that technology can contribute to gender-based violence. ASEAN Leaders Declaration combating trafficking in person caused by the abuse of technology. This is maybe the least document in ASEAN that see technology can do harm, but does not necessarily look at the TFGBV. ACWC has made a strong call on digital protection for women and girls, uh, but still do not have specific framework. In on children, they have ASEAN Declaration on Protection of Children online. So, but for women, they don't have any document yet. ICHR has no declaration related to digital protection, but ICHR has discussed when I was chair in 2023. We discussed about the importance of recognizing TFGBV. But in that time, we did not use the word TFGBV. We looked at as digital harassment against women. Uh, but again, iChair has a lot of rooms to improve, to look at the topic in the incoming years. How to improve digital cooperation? Perhaps, well, challenges first. We mentioned earlier there are different definition and also fragmented in relation to legal framework among ASEAN member states and limited cross-border enforcement. So this is the topic that has been considered as regional, but happen in countries. Just would like to highlight on this. Very often, as regional organization, we divide tasks with the national. So, for instance, issues that regional organization of ASEAN can do, can address, is considered as a cross-border, transboundary, or regional concerns. Cross-border is understood, yeah. It deals with different borders, and transboundary, the situation happen in one country, but the effect goes beyond the country, like haze. But regional concern doesn't have to be cross-border, doesn't have to be transboundary, but all countries feel experience the same difficulties or maybe same or similar difficulties. So that is why it's something that they consider as regional concerns. Also, another example is countries. Not all countries experience the concern, but countries that do not have the issue allow countries member of ASEAN to deal with the topic such as counter-violent extremism. Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia thought that they don't have any cases on on violent extremism, but they allow this topic to be discussed at the regional level in ASEAN because they show solidarity with other countries member of ASEAN that experience that one.
Buyan, excuse me,
Last one. Recommendation for strengthening regional cooperation. Perhaps ASEAN need to talk among each other and see to harmonize the laws related to TfGBV. It means perhaps countries need to have specific law on this. Countries member of ASEAN have the laws related to um, uh, domestic domestic violence, uh, gender-based violence, but looking at technology into this maybe something that need to be discussed among member states. And establish regional safety task force. We don't have to come up with a new body. They can be a task force in either ICHR or ACWC to monitor what is happening in the region and to improve cross-border cooperation. This like data sharing agreement. I saw bilaterally countries work together on sharing data sharing or information sharing, especially when it comes to child sexual abuse. In ASEAN number of ASEAN forum in relation to children, they share how the experience of sharing the information. But I'm not sure to what extent this can be also applicable to women. So again, whenever it comes to children, seems like easier. Maybe no one, say no to children, but on adult like women require further push in ASEAN and strengthen the engagement with civil society, ensuring survivor centered approaches like what SafeNet has been initiating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Buyun, for your excellent presentation. I think it's interesting to note how you mentioned about how WPS policies, documents neglects digital issues, but digital cooperation neglects protecting women. So it's a difficult balance to strike, I believe. And as Buyun mentioned, the basis for addressing the FGBV and making sure that these different agendas are interlinked is there, but there has been lack of specificities where TFGBV is specifically addressed. And so I think that is something that maybe we can hear more about especially from the private sector perspective, who in a lot of ways is, in a lot of cases is most in contact with end users as well. So to discuss that, we have Jacqueline Sim, who is as mentioned, the senior manager of at BlackBerry, which is based in Malaysia, and the BlackBerry Cybersecurity Center of Excellence has done tremendous work in assisting the Malaysian government in cyber threat intelligence and safeguarding their critical infrastructure from cyber attacks. So I believe Jacqueline will be able to touch upon what are the roles of tech companies in promoting greater collaboration and in tapping into existing collaboration in the ASEAN level as well as at the national level. How can we promote gender responsive approaches in tech company strategies, as well as how can we think of technology as a part of the solution? And I believe this is something that Jacqueline will touch upon as well. So I would like to pass on the mic to Jacqueline. Jacqueline, please.
Thanks, Mabda. I believe everyone can hear me. Uh, sorry, I don't have any slides. So before I really start, I would like to just have a quick brief of what is BlackBerry doing in Malaysia. So, I mean, everyone knows BlackBerry by the mobile phone, but unfortunately, we don't have it right now. But we are actually very focusing on the critical communication products in cybersecurity. And we also, in last year, March 26, we opened a Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, the very first CCOE in Malaysia, and mainly to train up men and women in Malaysia and probably later ASEAN as well, to probably improve the cyber resilience and reduce the skill gaps. That's what we are doing here in Malaysia. So in terms of the pathway for multi-stakeholders collaboration, I'm thinking this is actually a global challenge shared by nation worldwide. So public-private sector collaboration across borders and cultures is actually the key. So at BlackBerry, we believe building cyber resilience and cyber awareness can really help mitigating and addressing TfGBV. And it requires a whole of society effort. So first, I would think of a good way in doing this is to embed cybersecurity awareness into school curricula, workplace training, and public education programs with a focus on the unique risks women face online. Of course, they are disproportionately targeted by cyber stalking, doxing, online harassment, and deepfake abuse. So I think we must work together to develop education programs that teach not just about cybersecurity fundamentals, but also how to recognize, report, and respond to gender-based threats online. So we also need to train educators, HR professionals, and like policymakers to understand and address these issues in their respective fields. So I think this is, this have been brought up by both the honorable speakers. So I just want to and enhance it with more on the cybersecurity education part. So secondly, the private sector, especially like tech companies and cybersecurity firms, must take responsibility for creating safer digital space. So governments, NGOs, and industry leaders should work together to enforce like stricter content moderation policies, improve platform safety features, and provide transparent reporting mechanisms for online abuse. So when security education is backed by real-world safety measures, I think we can create a more holistic approach to protection. So of course, we also must empower women with cybersecurity knowledge to protect themselves online. So digital self-defense skills such as secure their social media accounts, detecting any phishing scams, and navigating privacy settings should be accessible to all, especially women in marginalized communities. Women shouldn't just be a passive users of technology, I think. They should be equipped to defend themselves and even become cybersecurity leaders. So when women are educated on cybersecurity, they can gain control over their digital lives. But education alone is not enough. So we lead governments, tech companies, academia, non-profit organization, and civil society working together to ensure women are not only informed, but also protected by policies, by platform safeguards and legal frameworks that hold perpetrators accountable. So in Asia Pacific, we have like tremendous opportunity to bridge the gender gap in cybersecurity, especially considering the high share of women STEM graduates in the region. However, despite their qualifications, women remain underrepresented in cybersecurity roles. Well, just take Malaysia as an example. So according to UNESCO, Malaysia has the highest share of STEM graduates as a percentage of tertiary students worldwide. So this is something that we are proud of. In 2021, women made up 53% of STEM graduates in Malaysia. But yet, despite these promising numbers, Malaysian women are far less likely than men to be employed in STEM-related jobs. I have to admit that cybersecurity still remains a male-dominated field, with women making up less than 25% of the global cybersecurity workforce, and in some estimates, just 10% in our region. That is actually very less. So this gap is not due to any lack of talent, but rather barriers in like access, representation, and workplace inclusion. So how do we change this reality? So one of the most effective ways is through targeted and inclusive cyber capacity development programs that ensure women have the skills, opportunities, and support to thrive in cybersecurity. So at the CCOE, which is the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence in BlackBerry, we have been working towards this goal since our launch in March last year. So our partnership between BlackBerry and the governments of Malaysia and Canada is a long-term commitment to strengthening cyber resilience across ASEAN. So that's a major milestone was achieved last year when the government of Canada announced a 3.9 million Canadian dollar investment in Malaysia at the APEC summit. While the full program details are still to be announced, anyway, so this funding will still support cybersecurity training programs by Toronto Metropolitan University's Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst, aiming to train 3,500 cyber defenders from Malaysia and other ASEAN nations. Of course, including dedicated courses for women. Okay, that is very important. So in my role, I oversee the training programs delivered at our CCOE in Malaysia and have seen firsthand how representation matters. More than half of our CCOE employees are women, which helps create a welcoming and comfortable environment for female participants. So beyond the classroom, we are expanding our training formats. We are also offering like online and self-paced training, making cybersecurity education more flexible and accessible, particularly for women balancing work and family responsibilities. Beyond training, we must also open doors to career opportunities for women in cybersecurity. One of the initiatives where BlackBerry partners with Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst and SANS Institute, we provided full scholarships to women in Malaysia to complete a 6-month CLICK program, which is a cybersecurity leadership program, which helps some of them actually land cybersecurity jobs. So scholarships, mentorship programs and leadership initiatives like this are actually essential to building a pipeline of skill and empower women in cybersecurity. So promoting gender-responsive approaches in cyber capacity development requires collaboration across governments, industry, academia, and civil society. So one of the best ways to do this is by partnering with women-led cybersecurity organizations to amplify gender-specific initiatives. So as what Magda has introduced, so beside my role in BlackBerry CCOE, I also serve as president of ISC2 Malaysia chapter, which is an international recognized certification body, where I am committed to encouraging more women to enter cybersecurity. So last year, we actually organized a women-only event, providing a safe space for women to openly discuss their challenges and barriers in the industry. And the response was overwhelmingly positive. I would say that the participants is even more than other events that I have held in the chapter. So the participants felt heard, supported, and motivated to take the next step in their cybersecurity journey. So cyber capacity development is not just about expanding technical expertise. So it's about ensuring that everyone, especially women, has the opportunity to participate, contribute, and thrive in the safer digital world. So besides technical expertise, like soft skills, like problem-solving skills, data analytics, and attention to details. These are some of the soft skills that women should also be trained up and be mastered on that. Real difference in strengthening security, protecting human rights, and ensuring that cyberspace remains governed by the rule of law. So at the CCOE, we believe that by providing high-quality cybersecurity training, actionable cyber threat intelligence, and stronger regional collaboration networks, individuals and organizations will be better equipped to defend against cyber threats. This extends not only to businesses and governments, but also to vulnerable communities, including women. So in the Indo-Pacific region, we have seen a sharp rise in cyber attacks over the past several years, coming from both state and non-state actors. One of the most concerning trends is the emergence of cyber trafficking industry, which has blossomed in Southeast Asia in recent years. So to address this, the UN has recommended enhancing cybersecurity training for law enforcement, governments, and the private sector to improve their ability to detect, prevent, and investigate cybercrime. They also emphasize the need for stronger intelligence sharing networks and greater cyber threat awareness. At CCOE, we are committed to supporting these goals by equipping cyber defenders with the skills and tools that they need. Talking about technology, I actually have an award-winning police case study to share from the United Kingdom. So this is very interesting. In the UK alone, police receive a domestic abuse call every 30 seconds and record 1.5 million incidents a year. That is actually a lot. In the aftermath of an alleged attack, courts often issue a domestic violence protection orders, requiring suspects to stay away from their accusers for up to 28 days, so that victims can put additional safety measures in place. And Darren Spurgeon from Greater Manchester Police, the GMP, says that the perpetrators of these crimes continue to victimize their targets even after a court order says they must stay away from their accusers, and that domestic abuse affects more repeat victims than any other type of violent crime. So as GMP patrols an area of nearly like 500 square miles and 2.8 million people, this is a challenge. And it's almost impossible to manage. So however, the story that I will share with you now follows their deployment of BlackBerry's highly secure critical event management and communication solution called BlackBerry Ad Hoc, actually to aid their efforts in breaking the cycle of domestic violence. So the solution that they are using, GMP is using, is called BlackBerry Ad Hoc. So they use the platform to communicate with thousands of employees each day. It has also radically enhanced communication across many public and private sector partners that are required to support a fast, accurate, and coordinated response to incidents and events. So they evolved this further using ad hoc geolocation alerting and intelligence sharing capabilities of this technology to ensure the safety and security of victims of domestic abuse, to reassure them and to better equip officers on patrol to monitor and identify those who breach protective orders. So ad hoc helps them to ensure that the right officers are in the right place at the right time, equipped with the right information to catch perpetrators at the victim's address in breach of prevention orders issued by the court. So it is now part of the SOP for GMP when a domestic violence protection order is issued, and now they are seeing the results. So to conclude this, the global shortage of qualified cybersecurity professionals and lack of gender diversity in the industry is indeed a global challenge that requires local programs and solutions supported by public-private sector collaboration. That is why it is so encouraging to see the Malaysian as ASEAN chair in 2025 nominate this the year of skills, creating an important platform for the discussion. So BlackBerry is proud to work with the governments of Canada and Malaysia to help educate workforce in ASEAN and boost cyber capacity. We are committed to furthering global public-private sector collaboration against rising digital threats that may impact vulnerable communities and help to foster more opportunities for women in the sector. Okay, back to you, Magda.
Thank you, Jacqueline. A round of applause for Jacqueline.
Thank you.
I think, thank you very much, Jacqueline. It's interesting to note how one challenge that BlackBerry noticed not only the lack of opportunity, but also the high barrier in place for women to enter the cybersecurity workforce. Whereas, as we know, I think having women within the sector is very important to ensure that agenda that is relevant to them, that is close to them, is able to be advocated and amplified. I suppose I think it's interesting how you mentioned about the case that you know that BlackBerry has collaborated with the police in Manchester, was it? Yeah, Manchester. And how technology can serve as a solution rather than the problem, which I think is very encouraging. And I'm looking forward to hear whether a similar collaboration model can be replicated here, where, as I believe, I think ensuring that the police force as well as the military can have the right skill set and using the right technology to solve the right problem is very important. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that in the discussion sessions. And with that, I would like to, we will do a quick Q&A session. So I think we have ample time to do several rounds of questions. So if there's any questions from the audience which you would like to direct to either one of the three speakers or to everyone, I would be happy to take them. So if there's any question from the floor, I think you can raise your hands. I think we have three now. So I'll take one from the lady at the back there, and then gentleman in red over there, and then the lady in blue over here. So first.
Yeah, terima kasih.
And please state your name and possibly affiliation as well as your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Ishana from President University. I teach international relations at the university. I actually have a question for Ms. Jacqueline Sim, if I get your name correctly. So you did mention that, correct me if I'm wrong, the percentage of female graduates of STEM is currently 53%. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
53% of female graduates in STEM. But then again, you also said that there is a lack of access, for women to enter any kind of jobs in STEM. Actually, my question is that does that have anything to do with like the usual causes of women, like having lack of access, to any kind of job? Is it because women are perceived as not going to stay in a job for long because like they would eventually get married and have children, get pregnant, and then they would eventually go on a maternity leave? Or is there any other specific cause that is probably specific to Malaysia? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mbak
Okay,
Ishana.
thanks.
Sorry, Jacqueline. I think we're going to take we're going to collect 3 questions first, and then I'm going to direct it to each of the speaker. And then the gentleman at the back, in red.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the. Um, okay. First of all, I'm Aldi Palariski. I'm from Lab 45, Laboratorium 2045. First of all, thank you for the interesting presentation from all the speakers. Okay, so I want to ask to Nandan, uh, Miss Nandan. Um, it's interesting when you said that Siri, Alexa, that sounds like woman, represent woman as assistant. So I want to know what's recommendation that can you or SafeNet give about that issue. Is there a basic argument from Google or iPhone about using woman voice to uh, this app? Yeah. Okay. Um, Next question. Okay, today we talk the scope of ASEAN, but I want to know from all the speakers how Indonesia face this issue. Is there any program from our new government to answer TfGBV, especially when we talk about digital gender gap? Maybe that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And then lady at the front here with in blue.
Um, is it okay if I ask 3 questions in a row?
3, but briefly.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the great presentations among the speakers. I appreciate it a lot. But for the, I think 1 question for all the speakers and 2 questions for Bu Nenden and Bu Yuyun specifically. As the speakers mentioned before, that digital right literacy is quite important to prevent TFGBV. First, I think we should clear about the definition of its, what is it, digital right security. So this is the first question for each speakers. So it is for you also, Miss Jacqueline. How do you define digital right security? And I think I almost uh, when Miss Jacqueline explaining about the Malaysia adopting the digital literacy for their curriculum, is it possible we are here in Indonesia to look up to another country in ASEAN? Maybe I don't know if it's Singapore also have also the same kind of adoption like Malaysia. Is it possible for us in Indonesia? I think this is specifically question for Bu Yuyun as the representation of ASEAN. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah, is it possible what do you think? Is it possible for us? And the 3, which aspects that do you think it is most important for women organization in Indonesia, such as Purple Code, if the speakers have heard organization like Purple Code, should educate and spread awareness regarding TFGBV to women across Indonesia? I think that is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have several questions from 3 participants. So I would like to hand over the microphone maybe first to maybe first from Ban and then Buyun and then Jacqueline. Maybe specifically to Ban and then there are questions about what recommendation can be provided about specifically using women's voices in in assistant applications, and then how Indonesia will address the FGBV with the incoming with the sitting administration, and how do you define digital rights? But
Okay,
please.
thank you. Okay, so thanks for the questions. So it's quite interesting questions, but I will try to answer it briefly. So actually, for the recommendation on how the tech platform or tech company using women voices, yeah, for this is actually is as easy as they provide the gender neutral voice. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, even though there's no gender neutral voices, but I mean, like, they can develop it, or even not use the women voice as a default configuration, right? So actually, maybe in the first, when you have a new phone, you can just like pick which voices that you want, kind of like that. So it will be very helpful actually to ensure that we are not stereotype women as the assistants, as the assistant. And then actually, there's a new term that also I heard it like in the past few years. Is called uh, wait wait, I forgot what's the term. It's it security. Wait, sorry, wait. I have the notes about it. It's really really great. Actually, it's called safety by design. Nah, safety by design, and also there's another terms. I mean, like when we discussing about the technology and it and what's related on it, there's a lot of like new terms, and we should always learn. And then there's also a human-centric approach. So there's a human-centric approach, and then there's also safety by design, and then we also have another term. It's called user-based right decision. So there's a lot of like terms that actually, yeah, we should learn a lot about that. But it's really interesting when the technology and how the society react to that is also something that maybe we can learn a lot from that, and then how the big tech company or the tech companies also should learn about that as well, to ensure that the users, we as the users, our needs is can be provided by the big tech company itself, including how they not develop the technology that gender bias. And then for the next question is on how Indonesian government, yeah, facing or even or even react about the TFGBV. I mean, uh, SafeNet when, yeah, is in 120 days of Prabowo and Gibran governmentship, and then we haven't heard anything actually about what's the strategy they provide about how to address the technology facilitated gender-based violence, or even the digital rights situation. Uh, the the latest information actually, there's a new draft of cybersecurity and ketahanan apa bahasa Inggrisnya, and resilience. Yes, cybersecurity and resilience law draft that just circulated like few days ago, and this is something that we should look for, yeah, what's actually uh, what's inside that draft of law, because in the previous one of the draft of the cybersecurity and resilience is kind of off, not like something that really really I mean, like, create some safe space actually for the user, but it's mostly talking about on how put some authority to some bodies or agency related the cybersecurity itself. So we should look for the newest draft of the cybersecurity and resilience draft of law in Indonesia. And then about the digital rights, I mean digital rights literacy, yeah, not digital rights security. Digital security or digital rights literacy. So that's the different context. But what I mean with the digital rights is mostly talking about the basic knowledge about the rights, what kind of rights that we have on the digital space. As I mentioned earlier, that at least we should know that we have the rights to access to the internet. This is the basic and the fundamental rights for us, for Indonesian, for all actually, how we have the right to the access to the internet. So when some area or some people that cannot access the internet because infrastructure, for example, or the economy capacity, there is something wrong actually on the rights fulfillment, yeah, for the digital rights fulfillment, and then rights to freedom of expression, so how we can freely express ourselves on the digital space without feeling fear or afraid because of the criminalization, for example, or afraid because of the online harassment and the other kind of things. And then the last one is the right to feel safe on the digital space. So yeah, it's quite related on how we free from the violence, online violence, free from cyber attacks, for example, kind of like that. And actually, there's a lot of like digital rights, but SafeNet mostly focusing on that through rights on the digital. So actually, we have like rights to privacy and so on. So yeah, so that's the thing. That's why we found that digital rights literacy is very fundamental. Is even need to be more uh, to be uh, I mean, like it should be adopted in every curriculum, I believe. I mean, like this is a basic fundamental rights. Just not only talking about what to do and what not to do on the internet, but how you can reclaim your rights when you feel not safe on the internet, when you have no access to the internet. So you have the power to reclaim and to demand the government to fulfill our rights. So that's the thing why I found that digital rights literacy it's really important. And then the curriculum in Indonesia, yeah, actually it's already in the ICT subject di TIK tech, yeah. So someone mentioned that digital literacy is already on that curriculum, but it's not really specific about the digital literacy, but it's included on the ICT subject in schools. And then the last one, yeah, actually the recommendation for the CSOs is, yeah, how we can mainstreaming the idea of the digital rights is really important. So we should empower people to reclaim their rights on the digital space so they can stand for themselves, yeah, when their rights are violated by any actors. That's all.
Thank you, Benedict. So it's important. Just going circle back to your first point on safety by design. I think this is very important because ensuring that human centeredness is considered in every development of technologies is very important. Bear in mind that there are a lot of ways that technology can be used. We understand the term of dual use technology, and in a lot of cases, technology is inherently dual use, and making sure that it is designed with safety in mind is very important. Maybe Buyun, can you please maybe touch upon on what aspect is important in empowering CSOs in Indonesia, especially with regards to, you mentioned about the importance of making sure that protective measures, policies are in place, especially for women in politics, human rights defenders, and this has been a very high concern for stakeholders in ASEAN. So maybe is there anything that you think need to be touched upon, and maybe extending from that answer, how can Indonesia specifically address the FGBV better, particularly under the new administration?
Well, I don't know. As mentioned, the new government doesn't announce yet what it's going to do, yeah, with this. But anyway, I'm not representing the government, and I'm not representing ASEAN anymore. My term and December 2024. Uh, but yes, in ASEAN, I participated in the process of developing the school curriculum on I don't think it in that time called as digital literacy. So it bring together the teachers from 10 ASEAN countries and develop the manual and how teachers teach students on digital and how to save, how to operating safely. I think that's, I participated in the process of drafting the manual slightly and then listened to the experiences of teachers. It was online because COVID-19. Their experiences on using the manual, pro and cons, challenges, and so on and so forth. So I'm happy to hear from London that it's actually going on. So it's been maybe implemented at the national level. But I think there has been discussion on what does it mean by digital rights, because it so very often people look at it as, uh, by having a stroke a statement saying the rights that is on offline should be respected online. But what does it mean? Because human rights is a framework. It consists of duty bearers, the governments, right holders, every one of us, and rights. And it is very important to identify what rights are digital rights, because identifying this right will lead us to identify what the obligation of the state in protecting that rights, and what, who are the right holders. So it is very important to explore this and to identify what does it mean by digital rights. we I think all agree that digital rights literacy is very important, but what need to be literated? So we need to define. So I've been talking on this topic to different groups, like when the UN Committee on Child Rights introduced the general comment in relation to digital environment for children. So again, they use digital environment for children. What does it mean? Because very often we take for granted that rights offline should be respected, protected, fulfill it. Right of online should be respected, protected, fulfilled as rights offline. But what does it mean? What entails to this kind of statement? It is very important. This statement is very important, but uh, as a right holders, we need to identify what are they, to be able to identify the obligation of the state. Obligation of the state: respect, protect, fulfill. But what it is in the respect online, what it is in the protect online, and so on and so forth. This has been a lot of discussion among scholars about this. And one, I think I remember in 2019 when HR Indonesia organized a workshop on freedom of expression opinion. We invited one scholar based in Kuala Lumpur, and she also explored. She asked so many people what they mean by digital rights when they call on respect, protect, fulfill digital rights. No one give her an answer, the fixed answer. Oh, because in this and this and this. But what? No one can explain. So that's perhaps our homework, and the organization, women organizations' homework, to identify what specifically about women in digital rights. What is specifically about children in digital rights? The general comment on digital environment for children, of course, look at rights, but rights as in CRC. But what is there any additional, or is there any new rights that came because we recognize digital rights for children? It is not answered for. That's my criticism to the committee of the CRC. Yeah? But again, this is something that require exploration, and I think Nandan agree with me that everything related to digital and technology, they move very fast. So if we don't, and we don't have capacity to do very fast at the same time. So again, this is again, I do not know the answer, but I think this is something that worth exploring by organization. The question was about Purple Code. I think Purple Code has been contributing a lot on defining violation against women digitally. I think they introduce a lot of way of thinking, challenging our thinking about violence against women digitally. And just for I think Siri and Alexa, my experience, I just um, set up my new computer, and it has actually options. Do you want to voice male voice or a female voice? It is not that it is this is the option for you. Even the female voice, you have so many options, and male voice, you have also so many options, whether it is firm or soft or this. Yeah, but of course I choose female voice because it's so suiting to me for Siri and Alexa. Thank you.
Thank you, Buyun. I think it's excellent that you note about how important it is to have clarity in what we mean by digital rights and making sure that the definition is in place and is adhered to. I'd like to move on to Jacqueline, which of course there are quite a lot of questions that is directed to you. First on what causes the lack of presence of women in cybersecurity, and whether there are specific challenges to cybersecurity or maybe cybersecurity as a sector, and whether it is caused by long-standing gender biases or is there any other specific challenges that you might have found, and also about whether it is possible to export, in some sense, curriculum from one context to another. Especially, I think you mentioned about how you've been working a lot about developing cybersecurity curriculum in Malaysia. Whether you have integrated lessons from other countries as well. When what do you think can be learned by other member states in ASEAN as well? And I would just like to circle back to Banenden's previous answer about safety by design, and I wonder if that's something that BlackBerry, how is it integrated in BlackBerry's strategies as well? Because I think it's something that making sure that aside from safety by design, but also human-centeredness is well considered by those who are designing the technology, and this is something that is promoted very timely in the Paris AI Summit. So I just wonder if there's something that might be shared from BlackBerry's perspective. Jacqueline, please.
Okay, thank you, Martha. Thanks for all the questions. So the first questions about why the women is not joining cybersecurity field. I think there are a few perspectives. I just bring up some of the examples that remember I mentioned about there's an event, women only events that I have and then have them to voice up what is your barrier? Why don't you join cybersecurity? And I just pick up some of them, some of the points that I answer your questions. I think one of it is about and in the cybersecurity job, so how we design the job as in the scope and everything and the safety of everything. Like for example, cybersecurity, it's more on like technical on call. Sometimes it's a night job. So when we design a job scope like this, when there's on call, when you have to like come to work at midnight, so it will be more, for women will feel more dangerous. And I don't want to be like on call in the midnight and I have to rush there and then to do work. And how about my safety? So this could be one of the cause why women not joining cybersecurity jobs. Like another thing is I think lack of female role models or mentorship. Like I think a lot of the women that I see from the events, they really want mentors. They want someone as female leaders to guide them, so they can see that, oh, okay, if you can do so, I can do as well. So I think there's lack of maybe mentorship, or probably there is, but it's not really public to everyone that people can actually join in the mentorship programs and yeah, to get a female mentor, female leaders as their mentor, and then to guide them how they should actually go around this cybersecurity industry. Yeah. So other than that, probably maybe culture or something, they think that, oh, I need a work-life balance, comparing women and men. I mean, women, like, we have kids, we have our home that I need to be responsible on. I may not be able to work at such a long hours on call kind of cybersecurity jobs. So they may actually prioritize family commitments, yeah, instead of having to work as a cybersecurity job. So they probably go for something that is like a fixed 9 to 6 work, and you don't need to call me after 6 p.m. Yeah, this kind of work, so that they can prioritize more to, you know, the family, and for them to further study or further exposed to cybersecurity. Sometimes some of the seminar held in midnight, or sorry, not midnight, but held in like evening. So for them, I mean, they have family, right? They need to go back, and then for the family time. Like, it's a bit hard for them to expose to more cybersecurity knowledge. Okay, so sometimes this is why, with all of this, we should have things like web training, self-paced training for them to do it on their own time. So expose more to cybersecurity, to build their cybersecurity skill, and be able to like not be intimidated by a male-dominated industry. Yeah. So that's a few things I've actually picked up from the workshop that I have done. So another questions about digital right. I think for digital right literacy, from both speaker Bu Nandan and Bu Yuyun, I think they actually like pretty much said it all. So from my side, from cybersecurity awareness side, so it's more about what you can share, what you cannot share. We always in our awareness training talking about what you should share in your social media and what should not. I pick up one of the example, one of the news actually happening in Malaysia, that there's one bus driver actually taking a video of the primary school girl in in his bus, and like every day when this little girl going to the bus, and he's taking video of her and placing in social media, and people start to like, I mean, some join in and say, oh yeah, she's cute, and like some of the nasty comments that I do not want to say it here, but some really like, is it appropriate? Like, why do you want to expose a young girl in the internet? Of course, it's your social media, it's your phone, your mobile phone, but that is other people's privacy. So digital right literacy basically also being aware of what you should share, what you shouldn't share. So that is on my opinion. So about exporting this the course to others, of course, like some of the courses we work closely with Roger, cybersecurity catalyst from Canada, and we built some course, and then we have some feedbacks, and of course it also not just about the content, how to deliver the whole thing. It's also kind of localized with us, because like when they deliver the whole outline and to us, and then we read through, and then we sit in for the first delivery, and we give feedback, like how we should actually change the content or change the time. Even time, it's also important. Like suppose we have 5 days courses from probably 9 to 5, but next month we have another 5 days courses. We cannot do like 9 to 5, because it's the Muslim fasting month. So we have to accommodate to them. So we kind of change the timing, so that everybody is like more comfortable. They need to break fast. So these are the things we actually incorporate into not just on the content, but the whole delivery. And this thing can actually use it in other, I said, if needed. Like there's no there's no difference. Probably when you move the courses to different countries, when it comes to example, we can pick up some of the local example so that it makes the participant more relatable to whatever they are learning. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Jacqueline. I believe we're kind of short on time, but I think we have two more questions that we can raise. Maybe Mbak Dane and then Ibu over here. And I think I saw another hand over there. Yeah, I think if you can please ask your questions very briefly, that will be wonderful. But yeah, please.
Thanks. I'm Dane from Kompas Morning Daily. My question is actually to Jacqueline, but other speakers are welcome to answer. I'm wondering, Jacqueline, because you are from BlackBerry, which is like arguably the #1 security company in the world, and now we have like the tech giants such as Meta and X have openly say that they will not moderate content anymore for the sake of quote unquote freedom of expression. From your standpoint as a expert in cybersecurity, how do you reply to this kind of statement? And secondly, it's not a question, but it's actually a suggestion. When you say about women and 95 jobs, coming from the journalist perspective, actually in Southeast Asia, we have increase of female journalists who were willingly to do like physically demanding and mentally demanding jobs. We're literally climbing mountains and sailing the ocean. So my suggestion is, next time Channel News Asia or News Straight Time recruit journalists, maybe BlackBerry should piggyback on them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Dane. And then the lady over here.
Thank you. My name is Eri. I come from ASEAN Solidarity Economic Council. Very interesting listening to the interesting discussions today. As you know that technology is not neutral, I agree as well. But there is as well a questions to all of us. How can, but neutral that means can be two. It can be positive, can be negative, can be as well positive to accelerate the poverty alleviation, to bring more efficient, how to bring the benefit more efficient to our beneficiaries. So, but as we know, currently we cannot stop with all this digital. Even for myself, listening might be I'm part of the unliterate digital in this forum. A lot of the new things here, you are talking about the digital literacy, digital right. So even we haven't been finished with the gender-based violence, now with the technology itself in it, yeah. So how difficult for us to follow all this technology for all of us, particularly for the elderly, for the children. So what I want to say here, actually, might be Ibu, yeah, the law enforcement. There is, I'm sure there is people who concentrate on the digital right and so on, but I think we have to really strong all the women here to pursue the law enforcement for those people who break the laws, who do not make use the technology for abusing or for neglecting or take advantage of the technology to the others. That is, I think, that is important. We have to voicing, even this is the civil society, the private sector, the government, and all of us, because only with this law enforcement we can bring the technology into the positive way. So what I want to say that is actually we have to welcoming the technology, because in other side we have seen that the technology can bring accelerate as well the poverty alleviations. But as I know, you know, the government would like to go more efficient with the technology, but
Yep.
not everybody can follow the technology. No, the acceptance for if you want to access the public services, health public services. Now they demand to apply through the applications. Not all the people on the grassroots can access it. They don't understand. So there's not only gender in this side with the technology, but as well the inclusiveness of the technology. So, but to my opinion, the law enforcement that it should be put on the table, that we have to bring because on that the technology should be give advantage to the development. This is the first message that I want to say. And the second, I think I'm agree that all of us should be like more promoted what is actually digital literacy and the critical thinking, because we cannot stop the technology, but we let them all learn how can we think critical to see everything's new. Not we cannot accept everything that in the platform, but we have to stop to some certain extensions. So that things the message that we have to voices to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So very important point on addressing not only gender gaps in digital access, but also age-based gaps, which I think is very important because you know about how governments tend to resort to digital solutions without thinking of whether it is accessible or not. Last question, please.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Amira. I'm from the Republic of Indonesia Defense University, majoring in peace and conflict resolution. I have actually a trivial question here. So, as what Bu Yuyun mentioned earlier, ASEAN have had faced this issue for a while now. There are victims of the FGBV everywhere. What I want to ask is there any region or nations that has been successfully aid this issue, probably from those technologically advanced countries? Is there any methods from other nations outside of ASEAN that our government can adopt? Well, we heard BlackBerry does that, but how about our government decided to do so? Or maybe even chances to collaborate with them, help us developing new programs or policies or establish community or organization that is similar with what BlackBerry does, but for Asian. What will be the challenge if we want to collaborate with them? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So these are very excellent questions, but of course, due to time constraints, if possible, I would like to ask each of the speakers maybe uh, to provide their answers briefly on this question. So first, I would like to hand over the microphone to Bu Yun, and then to Jacqueline, and then last to Umban. And then I think there are several questions that I think are important for you to address. For example, addressing age-based gaps in digital literacy and digital access, and also how do we pursue critical thinking and digital literacy, and is there any region that we can note as a successful example that we can take note of? Please.
Uh, on Dane's question on removing the content moderation, that's actually worry many people also. Yeah. Now there is no what do you call it, community standard in Facebook or Meta and X or Twitter. So for my side, I try to monitor what is happening, who got the impacts from this removal of content moderation. But also content moderation is not the topic that is black and white, because if you regulate, control, moderate the content, that's also violating the freedom of expression opinion. But we know that freedom of expression or opinion is not absolute rights. It has some limitation, as mentioned in the International Convention, Covenant on Civil Political Rights. So striking a balance on this is very, very difficult, and has been the discussion. So then I don't know the answer, but it come to our concerns on the decision of Meta and X to remove the content moderation. Um, uh, Initially we call it as freedom of expression opinion online, but now become digital technology and so on and so forth. It has been welcomed, especially during COVID-19. It has been very useful. Person with disabilities has have more spaces and opportunities during COVID-19 in terms of jobs. So for instance, some groups told me that before COVID-19, all the engagement is in person, and so she was the agent for real estate. And when client come to her, immediately they see me as a person with disabilities. They immediately uh, uh, went out. So they cancel the appointment. But since COVID-19, everything done by online, so she got more clients because the conversation is online. And during online, she explained that I'm physically like this and this, and when they met, the business continues. So for them, having engagement online open up so many opportunities. Also, Zoom has translation. So if when I was ICHA representative, we organize webinars, and those who are what is it having impairment of hearing, they can read because they are captioned. Yeah, so technology is very very useful. But of course, everything has both dark side and also advantages. And what we are talking about now is how the advance of technology has been put aside the implication of women, and how this sidelining of women issues impact to women. So that's something that we need to address further. And so far, the issue of freedom of expression opinion online has been one of the discussion in ICHR, ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, when I was there. And each country, a member of ASEAN, has different approaches. One country in the region very strong, and the other country quite so-so, because try to balance between uh, both security and freedom, and it is not easy. And to answer Amira's question, there are, I think there are so many best practices and successful stories, but it doesn't mean it can be applicable to different situation, because very often it is case by case. What works for Singapore may not work for Indonesia. What work for Cambodia or Vietnam may not work for Malaysia or other countries. But I think it is very important to put some principles, and principles should be based on human rights, accessibility, affordability, gender equality, and so on and so forth. So I think it's very important for countries to use these principles when they regulate technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Buyun. And maybe to Jacqueline, as mentioned before, I think to reiterate Badan's question, how do you respond to big tech curbing down their measures in content moderation? And then, importantly, I think I would like also to hear how do you BlackBerry address age-based gaps in the digital space, not only gender but also how they intersect. So, if you could touch upon that, that would be wonderful. Jacqueline, please.
Okay, thank you, Magda. So I'll just give a very brief one. So since we have time constraint, so in terms of the Meta X and all those social media, like I'm very agree with Bu Yuyun about it's very hard to strike a balance between freedom in speech and content, all this content moderations. But probably Malaysia, it's the one that is like more stricter one, like what Bu Yu mentioned. So we recently in Malaysia implemented the new social media licensing framework. So all the social media, Meta and all this, right? So they have to obtain a license to operate in Malaysia, and they have to, comply to the local laws, including some of the content moderation. Especially, we have seen increasing of some Facebook advertisement about its investment, which is actually a scam. So investment scams, gamblings, and probably some nudity as well. So I think, yeah, I mean, freedom of speech it's true. Like everyone should have a freedom of speech, but that should be a balance. There should be a barrier, like a limit where you should limit in legal and ethical kind of limits. So I still think a responsible moderation is actually necessary. Yeah. So move on to the second questions about age group. Well, yeah, I totally agree. Like if you ask my dad, like all this awareness, he's like, oh, what are you talking about? all the terms, all the he wouldn't understand as well. Yeah. So so this is what our CCOE is doing, is that our cybersecurity awareness training, especially, it's for all sorts of different age group. So we won't put in like a lot of technical terms. We are making it layman enough that anyone with different age group, or even different from different industry or different job scope, you could understand. Okay, so that is one of the things that we are really strictly looking at the contents that we deliver. So especially things on cybersecurity, mostly for any segment of people, where we make sure that everyone actually understands and aware of the cybersecurity, especially now even the elderly are using mobile. So they should know how they can identify the fake, and also knowing what they can do. Yeah, so that is one part of it that we are doing right now. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That's I think that's something that we should also note, and it's really encouraging to hear that BlackBerry has designed a very all age friendly curriculum, all sector friendly curriculum, which I think is very important to note. But and then please, I think all of the questions are very relevant with safe networks as well. So
Yeah, because the other question is already responded by the other speakers, but maybe I want to add some comment related to the law enforcement. So yeah, I do agree that the law enforcement is something that's really important, but something we should note is also what kind of law and regulation that actually we should enforce. For example, in Indonesia or even in the other countries in the Southeast Asia, we don't have any ideal digital regulation or a digital law that actually can provide the safety and security for the users, because most of the law or framework in the Southeast Asia countries mostly talking about for example, in Indonesia, defamation, for example, and then hate speech, which is not really clear the definition of the defamation or the hate speech, and and it's possible, there is possibility that that law can be misused and abused, even to curb the freedom of expression or even the other rights. Other beside of the framework of the law and the regulation itself, we should also observe how the capacity of the law enforcer actually. For example, in Indonesia, I believe there's some department that has this capacity of the technicality capacity, but mostly in the polsec or polres, I don't think all the police has the capacity on that kind of technology, or and even their perspective of the of gender and human rights perspectives is really low and quite lack of it. So there's something kind of like yeah, I do believe that law enforcement is great, but it's also depend on the law itself and the law enforcers itself. So yeah, that's something that we should always improve. Yeah. Thank you.
thank you, Brandon, and that concludes our discussion on very important points on the importance of law enforcement to understand what digital rights is. So we're coming back to our previous points, our previous discussion on digital rights. So if I were to sum up the discussion today, I think we agree that making sure that digital rights are clearly stipulated and clearly defined is it's very important, and striking a balance between freedom of speech, safety, and also technological development is necessary, and it's a very difficult endeavor, but it is something that is very much necessary. And of course, I think having safety in mind, not only in order to address the FGBV, but also to address the digital gender gap to begin with is very much important. So I thank all of the speakers for the wonderful presentation. Please, a round of applause for all of the speakers. And again, thank you for Canada Mission to ASEAN for your support for this event, as well as the ambassador, Her Excellency Feki Singmin, for the support for this event. And also thank you speakers Banenden, Buyun, and Jacqueline for taking your time to attend this event and for your support for this event as well. And thank you participants for your active participation. And of course, as mentioned before, I think this is a very important issue which we hope can continue to resonate within not only in Malaysia or Indonesia, but also within ASEAN and globally. And we hope that we can hear more. We can hear more about discussions on this topic in the coming future. So thank you, everyone, and see you at another Talking ASEAN seminar. Thank you. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you. Bye.